want to live it. They're not hurting anybody. And unfortunately, we live in a society that don't do things the way they do it,
Yeah.
right? Or a president in this case who, and it's not even a dog whistle. We used to use the term dog whistle, which was like a hidden sound to do something. Now it's a bugle, man. It's a blowhorn,
Yeah.
and they're preaching hatred. And as a part of that hatred, we've seen the violence in the LGBTQ community where transgender people are being beaten up or murdered,
Right.
just because they're living the life
They
that
wanna
they
live.
live. They
Yeah.
want the life
Yeah.
that they have, the life that they were given, and it's their right, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think goodbye 2020, hello 2021,
Okay.
goodbye Trump,
Okay.
hello Biden, goodbye.
Goodbye, Trump.
Goodbye.
Time is up.
Goodbye, all the hatred and trash of the past. It's time for
Right.
some positive
Right.
energy to make some things happen.
I hate to get spiritual, but God is about love.
Absolutely.
About love, loving everybody.
And you know what? I don't think God ever got around to making anybody any better than
Right.
anybody else.
Exactly. They say all sin is the same. Huh?
Yep, Jasmine.
One of the questions that I had was, I'm not going to say if you, I know when you get to Congress, what are your plans of reaching over to the other side? Because I look at it like we have two different sides of Republicans now. We have the Republicans who are Trump Republicans, and then we have the Republicans who are just following the agenda.
Okay.
What role do you think that you would play to be able to reach over to both sides and kind of mend those fences to have us all work together?
And and that's key, because even though we now control the House, we control the Senate, we control the White House, we still got to work together.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And I've demonstrated that in my years of service. I currently serve as the Senate Minority Leader, the 12 Democrats strong, which means if we can't build coalitions, we can't pass laws.
Right.
So you can either, make a lot of noise and stand on a principle but never get anything done, or you can learn how to work with people and build coalitions to pass laws that will change lives.
Right.
So my plan will be going to Congress as it's always been. You build a platform based on good common sense, on facts, and then you build around it. You bring people to the table. And sometimes you got to do some horse trading. Sometimes
right,
you have to
that's
sit
right.
down and do some negotiating. But you know what? If we spent less time talking about our differences and more times about
Oh,
more
yeah.
time
We
about
have
those
in-
things
yes.
we have in common, we get a lot of things
That's
done.
right.
But
'Cause
what
I-
ends up happening is we lock heads like this, and we get so bent on Democrat, Republican,
And we
can't
independent.
hear each
Let me
other.
tell you something. I'm a proud Democrat. I don't make any apologies for it. But you know what? This country's gone to hell in a handbag because we're playing the party role too
That's
much.
right.
Right.
That's right.
We need to
Right.
fight for Americans. We need to fight for our people. We need to make sure that we don't have people going to bed hungry. We got to make sure that mothers are able to care for our children. We got to make sure that we have a living wage.
Right.
Because people cannot live on
Oh,
$7.50.
please.
The price of rice, the price of eggs, the price of milk, the price of health care, all have increased.
Yes.
But people
People
try to
accept-
live on
that don't make
$7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
Equal pay for women.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In 2021, we should not still be talking about the fact that an African American woman makes 30 cents on the dollar
Hello.
that a white male makes.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that picture that we're even talking about this in 2021. But yet, every session, I'm on the House floor, I'm on the Senate floor, I'm in committee, preaching about it.
Yeah.
Minimum wage. Every year, we're fighting for minimum wage. Criminal justice reform.
Yes.
You
Right.
know what? When somebody on the street has a rock versus a guy who has powder, the guy with the rock gets a stiffer sentence. The guy with the powder gets slapped on the wrist. What's wrong with that
That's
picture?
crazy.
And you know who typically had the powder and who had the rock? So you had a white gentleman that was selling the powder. You got a black guy that's got a rock. Why would the crime? They're both derivatives of each other, right? So they're
Yeah.
both cocaine. But the sentencing was much stricter because that hit into the community.
That's right.
Right.
And you've heard people say, listen, we don't fly the planes, we don't have the AK-47s, we don't grow the poppy seed, we don't bring the drugs in. We don't make the real money.
No.
But you look at the prisons, who's in those prisons.
That's right.
So what has to happen is you've got to create a system where people are not going to drugs because they're trying to escape their reality.
Right, exactly.
We got people that's really hurting in this community.
Right, and the
We
thing of
got
it is,
people that are starving, they're hungry, they're hurting.
They'd rather just put them in jail, no therapy, just want to lock them up and throw away the key. But how do you feel about it took like 11 months for them to think on another stimulus check? It was like egos, like people losing their jobs, people can't pay their rent, and they $600. That's two bills for me.
I'll tell you what the stimulus taught us. That when we want to, we can spend a lot of money on ourselves. Because we spend trillions of dollars in foreign aid, promoting democracy in foreign countries, fighting against famine and disease in other countries. Yet in America, we still have people with disease.
Yeah.
In America, we still have people that are hungry. Listen, in America, we should not have anybody going to bed hungry.
Exactly.
We pay farmers not to grow their crops.
Right.
Yet tonight, there's going to be thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people across this country that's going to bed hungry. Not in America. We can't have that. So we've got to bring some of the old with some of the new. We've got to address some of those things that have been swept under the rug. And when I go to Congress, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight to bring up some of those basic things that we somehow think we've overcome. And some of us have been blessed.
Right.
But we've got to remember many have not.
Like,
And it's not about us or what we have. It's about the greater good for our community.
Right. I want you to kind of elaborate on what exactly does a congressman do?
That's a good question.
Break it down.
Because you know what? Most people don't.
They don't
understand
know.
that.
Yeah.
So you've got three branches of government. You've got the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So on the then you've got federal, local, and state. So Congress is the federal government,
Okay.
and its counterparts are the Senate, Congress, and the executive branch, which is the president, judiciary, which is the Supreme Court.
Okay, got it.
So members of Congress, the 435 members of the House of Representatives, 100 senators, for a total of 535 members that's considered globally the U.S. Congress. Congress is the House and the Senate.
Okay.
So you've got, in our country, we have what's called a bicameral system. Bicameral meaning two houses,
Okay.
House and Senate. Some unicameral, one house. But so we've got bicameral, we've got a House, we've got a Senate. The House is responsible for, as with the Senate, is the legislative branch. This is where all the laws are made.
Okay.
This is where the opportunity for vetting to take place on any particular bill, any particular legislation, the sentencing for someone who commits murder, the types of laws that the federal government enforces. So members of Congress we serve on various committees. Those committees serve over certain subject matter. That subject matter is the first opportunity when someone has a bill for introduction is when we start the vetting process, where you present your case, you ask the questions, you present why this is good. Members then challenge it back and forth. Is it good? Is it not good? It passes, then it goes to the floor. But the bottom line is the process of how a bill becomes law, it operates through those two chambers,
Gotcha.
the House and Senate. So a member of Congress is your representative who, no different from you or me, just happens to have a seat to represent you. And in our form of government, we have a representative form of government, which is your representative is to represent you, your thoughts, your
Right.
ideas, the part of your world. So you see the differences that happen in a congressional body. It's because we got people from different parts of the world. So theoretically, a person in North Dakota may think quite differently from
Then
a
we're
person from
presenting Louisiana. That's right.
And so that's why you see head butt sometimes. But a congressman's job is to identify, write legislation, vote on legislation that's good, vote for that's good, vote against that's bad, and take care of the legislative and governmental needs of the constituency that they represent. Second part, now that's the purely legislative side. One of the most significant things of Congress is the power of the purse. So taxing issues begin in the House of Representatives. So all those issues relative to taxation, money bills, if you will, generate in the House of Representatives. So Congress is a place where laws are made.
Okay.
If I were to just boil it down to its most common denominator, we make laws.
Right.
Members of Congress make laws. We live between Washington and our home districts. We've got offices throughout the state, and those issues that affect people, rather it's the Social Security, um, needs with federal government, immigration, any of those things are all things that fall within the purview of a member of Congress.
Got you. That was a great breakdown, huh, Win?
Civics class.
Felt like I was back in the classroom.
No, political science, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't you have something about the?
Yes, I wanted to ask, what are you? I am a social worker, and I actually own a behavioral health agency.
Wonderful.
And the state of mental health services in Louisiana is concerning. The state, especially with children and adolescents and adults.
Yes.
The state mandated about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, put in some different guidelines for us, which works, and some of them don't work so well. What is it that you plan on doing to be able to bring enlightenment to what's going on with the state of mental health in the state of Louisiana?
A part of the problem, and first of all, thank you for being in the area of social work and working, because we are woefully short
Yes.
in the way of resources for people with mental illness.
Yes.
And particularly in our community, we seem to embrace and think that if you have a mental illness, then you're crazy.
Yeah, that's
Something's
the first
wrong
thing
with
they
you.
say. Yeah.
And so, no, I'm not taking no medicines. Nothing wrong with me. Or no, I'm not going to go and see a psychiatrist or an analyst or a therapist. I don't need. Well, you only if you have high blood pressure, you take high blood pressure
Pressure
medicine,
medication.
right?
We always
If you
tell
got
them.
diabetes, you take
Diabetes
insulin.
medicine,
You do
right.
that.
Yeah,
So if you
insulin.
have a mental illness, there's nothing wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you're crazy. It just means that there's an imbalance.
That's definitely
Operate a
and-
little
And a part of what ends up happening is so much of that in our community goes unchecked.
Yes.
It goes untreated. And then when it goes untreated, it manifests itself in other problems. So in Louisiana and in our country, we have a severe shortage of adequate care for people that are struggling with depression,
Yeah,
with schizophrenia,
definitely.
with bipolar disorder. But there's nothing to be ashamed of. You shouldn't feel like somehow you're less than. You're not. You just need a little help. And so one of the things that I have fought for in the legislature is having adequate health care on the mental health side. We saw what happened when those dollars were slashed. When those dollars were slashed, we started to see more people with these mass shootings.
Yes.
We started to see more heinous crimes on the street.
Yeah.
We started seeing people do all kind of crazy stuff because they're not in their right mind.
Right.
That's right.
So when you are able to go in, and Frederick Douglass said, it takes a lot more to fix a broken man
Yeah.
than to guide a child.
That's right.
So if you spend the money on the right side and guide a child, you don't have to spend trying to fix him when he's broken as a man. So early child education, early prevention, identifying when a child might have some issues.
Yeah.
Maybe if they're not doing well in class, it's not because they're not smart. Maybe there's another imbalance.
And we
Yeah.
see that often.
And we don't get a chance to identify that early enough, and then we label that child as a slow learner with a learning disability. You put him in a special class, and then you throw him away.
Yeah.
And you say we don't expect anything of you, and instead of identifying resources.
Yes.
So I will fight for, as I have, to make sure that we have community dollars to go into the community, into the classroom,
Yes.
into the neighborhoods. So people that have issues, we can help identify them first, and then get them the resources that they need. In the school system, we've seen time and time again where kids who may have been dyslexic or may have had ADHD, they were just they were labeled as slow learners. They were put aside. They never got medication, and then they thought the world was over.
Yeah.
Well, it's not over. It's never over.
Right.
We have the ability to fix most of what's wrong if you got people that care.
Right.
So we will fight for the kinds of resources to get into the community where we can provide the academic, the health care, the mental balance, the ability for parents to be able to help each other and help their children. And I applaud you for your efforts because we need more people that are willing to go into the community and to provide the resources that you have. So God bless you.
Thank you.
I always say that there's a lot of mentally ill people that's homeless. Like how we could fix
They are.
that.
Well, if you look, a very startling statistic that most people don't realize, the number one growing population of homelessness is women with their children.
Children, that's right.
So when you think about the number one growth pattern for homelessness is women with their children. And
Right.
the thought of a child being on the street breaks your heart. And if it doesn't, then something's wrong with you.
Right.
So, but that's all a part of a systemic issue, right? If you got an economy that doesn't work, you've got people expected to survive on $7.50 an hour. Just can't do it.
They can't survive.
And then you've got the issue with mental health.
Yeah.
You know, there's a serious issue with mental health and homelessness. And many homeless people are, unfortunate, I hate to say, are veterans.
Ooh,
People
that's
that have
deep.
gone to foreign land and protected our flanks, who've given their lives. I've got the utmost respect for people in the armed services who have protected our flanks and only come back to America to be mistreated.
Right.
There's nothing right about that. And many of those people that have gone to war, some that are still out on the street now from the Vietnam era, because they were exposed to chemicals, they were exposed to things, they saw things that got into their head. They've got PTSD,
Yeah.
and they haven't been treated for it. They haven't had the opportunity. And you know, God help us if we can't take care of the people that protect our freedoms.
Right.
Right? It's like school teachers, law enforcement, people in the military, people in the front lines. I mean, these are people that keep it going for us.
Yes.
And so the least we can do is to make sure that we provide for them, that we give opportunities that their children are never hungry, that we give opportunities that they have the opportunity to go back to school on our dime, right? They have the opportunity to have adequate health care. So if they're dealing with PTSD, you don't have to do it alone. And you don't have to feel stigmatized into believing that something's wrong with you because you have some issues.
So PS
Issues can be fixed.
is that a mental illness? I didn't know
Post-traumatic
that.
stress disorder is a mental illness.
Okay. I didn't
You know,
that.
sometimes you see, sometimes you see, when you're looking at television or you're looking at a movie and you have someone that may have been in a traumatic accident or they were in war and they have these flashbacks.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, and they'll show a flashback on the screen. Well, it's much like that. That's oversimplifying it, but it's much like that.
Back
It's
in the
like
day, didn't we
you
call
would
it shell shock?
you call it, yeah.
And what we're finding now is we're seeing a lot of younger people who are experiencing that, especially with the crime in New Orleans. I mean, we actually have children now who are seeing more dead bodies
Not
than
just that,
anything.
Hurricane Katrina.
Hurricane Katrina is a great one. Seeing someone get shot, and then you're wondering, these kids are walking around with so much trauma. And then when you start talking to them, it's just like the senator said, you think Little Lemon is cutting up in class, but when you start talking to him and peeling back that onion, you see it's so much more that's there.
Right.
But that Little Lemon, his parents, oh, he's not crazy. We don't want to label him as crazy. You know, they're brushing it under. But he really needs someone to discuss those issues with and be able to vent and let that out.
Right.
And a lot of people attribute PTSD with war. No, it's
No.
it's a stress disorder for something that you experienced,
That's
something
right.
you saw. Maybe it was Johnny who saw his brother killed. You know, maybe
Friend.
he saw somebody being brutally beaten. Maybe it was from a domestic
Right.
Yeah.
situation at home. Maybe it was sexual abuse by a loved one or so. There are a lot of different things that can cause it.
Right.
But the number one thing is to not run away
Away
from
from
it,
it.
That's right.
but get help.
Get help.
And understand that there is help available.
That's right.
We just
Well,
need to.
Senator, I want you to touch a little bit about, we talk privately, your thoughts on vocational education.
Let me tell you, the reality when I was a kid, when we were in school, we had VOTEC. You know, we had distributive education where you were in school half a day, you had the opportunity to go on the job training the other half if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You had industrial arts where you learned woodworking and you learned how to work with machines if you wanted to.
If you wanted to, yeah.
So, in this 21st, the year 2021, now we got to talk about technology, and we've got to talk about what the classroom will look like now. What we've learned now through COVID is that our classroom may never look the same again. It's going to be something that we don't quite understand, right? Maybe it's not inside of four walls. Maybe it's in front of a computer. So if that's the case, we've got to make sure that we have broadband. We have to have internet. things that we take for granted. But a lot of people don't have internet because they can't
That's
afford it.
right. That's right.
So if you can't afford internet, that means how are you going to be a part of the new educational scheme? So we've got to make sure that we have universal broadband for free. Because you don't have to keep paying Cox Cable $300 a month just so you have the
That's right. That's
the
right.
benefit of
That's
being able
right.
to use your computer, right? You have to have it accessible. You don't have to go to Apple and spend $1,000 for a laptop. We should make these things available to our
Yeah.
young people. And then for those who may not want to go and become a doctor or lawyer, but they're creative, they want to go into the creative arts. We have to have environment and opportunities for them to be able to do that. Listen, maybe they want to be a writer, maybe they want to be a dancer, maybe they want to be a welder or a plumber. All those things are honorable. There's nothing wrong with it.
And very good
And
paying
they're good pay. And you know what? I always tell my children, find something you like to do, enjoy it, and then figure out how to make money with it.
That's
Okay.
right. That's
Don't
right.
get a job trying to make money. Live your life.
Yeah, you're gonna hate it.
Find your talent, and we've got to encourage our young people to find their niche.
That's
To
it.
not be expected to fit in the same mold as what somebody else determines. We've got to give particularly in the African American community, where we often hear people say that we don't have enough role models.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I dismiss that because that's not true. We're letting somebody else define what a role model is,
yeah.
right? We got plenty of role models. We're looking in the wrong places.
That's right.
A role model defined by somebody else may be a billionaire or a doctor, a lawyer. Those are all great role models. But
Right.
that's not the end all be all.
No.
A role model could be Mr. Johnson, who lived down the block, who took care of his family, worked three jobs, and didn't have much of an education, but he loved his wife, took care of his kids, and he provided for them. That's a role model.
I personally
right?
say a role model is somebody that's inspire you.
And it doesn't have to be in a mode that somebody else creates.
That's right.
Exactly.
Those traditional definitions. One of the most painful things I've seen in that light is years ago. I remember looking in a magazine, and in that magazine there was a little black boy, and he had a towel tied around his neck like a cape, and he was looking in the mirror, and in the mirror he saw a white Superman. That was his hero.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, what that demonstrates is we're not providing the opportunity for these young black men to see things that they can touch.
Yeah.
That you have to identify with something that isn't you as your hero. Well, that means we've got to do better.
That's right.
That means there's role models in the church.
Okay,
There's role
yeah.
models in the neighborhood.
Yes.
There's role models on the playground. There's role models everywhere you go. You've just got to look and not let somebody else define it for you. You've got to recognize that, my grandmother used to say, a PhD is nice, a master's degree is nice, but it doesn't define a successful person.
Yes.
Some of the smartest people I know didn't have any degrees at all. They had what we call mother wit.
Okay.
Mother wit.
Yes.
They just had that good, solid common sense. Maybe they didn't articulate it the way in the King's language, but if you listen to them, it was raw wisdom.
It made a lot of sense.
We've got tons of that in our community. We got to see it and stop looking for somebody else's definition.
I totally applaud you from reaching out to the youth. Like, it seemed like you're so passionate about that, and I like that because a lot of like people my age, we look down on them. Like we wasn't young,
Yeah.
Like, oh, she doing this, she got 8 babies, and we don't really like lift them up. So that's why I feel like a lot of them turn to the streets. They don't feel like somebody loved them or somebody gonna be there for them,
And that's
especially if they
why-
don't have their mom and their dad.
That's why many people fall prey to gang violence.
Right.
Because they don't get the love and affection in the traditional home environment. All of a sudden now they're part of a group, a gang, and
It's
they
a
feel
family
part
for
of
them.
it.
Yeah, they feel a part of
It's your,
something.
it's your street fraternity. And if I often say, if we took those people that were in gangs, who were smart enough to organize and to be as enterprising as they are, and we gave that positive energy, man, we'd be creating the next CEOs,
That's right. That's right.
the next presidents, the next owners of businesses. We just got to harness that talent, that energy, redirect it, embrace it, and make it real. And that's what leadership's about. And that's what the
Okay.
community has to be the partner with those of us in elective office, listen, we can't do it alone. We need the church. We need the community. We need social workers. We need DJs. We need preachers. We need basketball players. Everybody plays a role.
Plays their part.
In
Yup.
this village, right? In this village.
Jasmine, let's wrap it up with women's health.
So let's talk about women issues. What is your take on reproductive rights?
I think that reproductive rights, you hit it on the head. The most solid part of that phrase is rights. It's a woman's
Ooh,
right.
it's a woman's rights.
It is not my place to tell a woman what she should do with her body. Let's be clear. Government has things that it should do. The places we should be. But like government doesn't tell me, a man, what to do with my body.
I'm so confused.
So why should,
we
Yeah,
still
for
vote on
real.
it and-
why should we tell you what to do your body?
Yeah.
Reproductive rights is a very personal issue. It's an issue that is between the owner of that body, and that's you.
Yeah.
You heard how you said it, the
Yeah.
owner of that body.
I'm always
Yeah.
perplexed when I find, like, when we're on the ballot. And I'm like, okay, y'all know that there is another. Why aren't we voting on what men are doing to their bodies?
Right.
Why is it important for what I do to my body to be on the ballot? Like,
But you know what's amazing about that? And when we talk about those who quote unquote call themselves pro-life, which I'm offended by, and everybody should, because you are for a woman's right to choose for reproductive rights, somehow that makes us anti-life.
Yeah.
No, we all love life. So the notion that because I support your right to choose and what you do with your body doesn't mean that I don't love life. Doesn't
Right.
mean you don't love life.
Right.
Some people use that as just one of those buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
To try and throw you off course. The truth of the matter is, I call some of these people pro-birth. Because once you're born, they don't care about you
that's
anymore.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's
They just want
the
you
truth.
to have the baby, but they don't want to provide
They-
postnatal
it.
care.
They're
don't
cutting
wanna have- they wanna
resources for
cut They want to cut
education.
the WIC checks.
Yeah.
They want to take away the ability for health care.
That's
and
right.
for a mother to be able to have adequate nursery care while
Yeah.
she goes to work. So you only care about the child
Yeah.
until they're born.
Until they're
As soon
born,
as
and
they're
then once-
born, then it's like toss them away.
You know,
well, that's not pro-life. To me.
Abortion is it's not legal here anymore. Is it?
It is.
Yes.
No, somebody said that it wasn't.
They've modified it.
No,
Okay, all right.
they've tried in multiple ways, but Roe v. Wade made it
It's legal federally.
it's legal
Okay,
federally.
all
and
right, gotcha.
It's regulated differently in different states.
All right.
But the reality is, and a lot of it's based on how far into the trimester.
Gotcha.
And you know, some would rather ratchet it back and take those rights away. And every time there's a presidential election, you hear Supreme Court justices that are being selected to determine, you know, what might happen. The bottom line is, it's a woman's right to choose. And
I agree.
And I support that. Reproductive rights are very personal, and it's the rights of the female to make that. We have to get beyond the ones that get so caught up in what they determine to be pro-life that they only care up until the 9th month and the baby's born, and then they don't care anymore.
And that's so true.
So we end up having so many young mothers out there that don't have access to postnatal care, that
Right.
don't have access to nutrition for that child. We have to care as much about what happens when that child's born,
Yeah.
and what happens when that mother. In Louisiana, we have some of the highest mortality rates of African American women and their children.
Right.
More mothers die while giving
Birth,
birth,
yeah.
or are challenged with the child while giving birth. I passed a resolution and put money in the budget, and so we would study that, and we would look at ways to reduce those instances of fatality during birth and with women of color. It's a real problem. It's a problem in our country. It's particularly a problem in Louisiana. As a result of my passing the resolution and putting money in the budget for it, we were able to bring all of the experts, medical experts together under one roof to start talking about, you know, what are the root causes? And a lot of it is inadequate preparation,
Yes.
inadequate health care, inadequate training. And listen, the reality is, within the hospital structure, there's always, like anything else, there's a hierarchy and there's racism that exists. That, you know, the issue where one one patient gets a little bit more medication for their pain than the other. This is not something that's made up. This has been proven and
That's it.
tested. That these are issues that we have to be willing to address. We have to be willing to talk about the disparities in healthcare. When we talked about COVID, there was some who had a notion that somehow COVID was more people of color were more susceptible. Well, it wasn't because COVID liked people of color. It was because of our underlying health
Issues, yeah.
It was because of the issues of inactivity, sedentary lifestyles, poor diets, and a lack of access to medical care. So in America, you can get a hamburger for $1.
Yep.
Salad is
cost you $6. So
Ain't that
you can-
Chick-fil-A.
So you're gonna get you're gonna unfortunately, if you got challenge bucks, you're gonna go for the buck,
For the dollar,
burger,
yeah,
because you
that's
got to
right.
spread your money.
I've been there a lot.
Listen, a bag of corn chips and a Coca-Cola is gonna fill your belly, but it has absolutely no nutritional value.
That's right.
Exactly.
So we have to eat better. We have to exercise more. We have to take care of ourselves more. And a part of that is, from my vantage point, is we've got to make healthcare affordable and accessible to everybody.
Exactly.
Well, Senator, thank you for coming.
Thank you so
I
much.
have thoroughly enjoyed it.
You're so
You are an
awesome.
awesome guy.
When can I come back?
Whenever you want.
I want to come back.
We said it at the same time.
I know.
Whenever you want.
Whenever you want.
And let me tell you this. And I want you to come to Washington with me. And I want you to come to Washington with me.
Okay.
Because what this is about us. This is about we. This is about a community effort. And we have to do this together.
Yeah.
It's not about a me or a my, it's about a team effort. And the more we get the community involved and you feel vested because you believe again, I want you to believe again. And I want you to know that we have a tremendous opportunity to do some really good things. We are now in 2021 with a president that I think really gets it.
Okay.
Time for us to move an agenda for change. I think we can do it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Senator
you.
Troy Carter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jazzy Jazz.
Thank you, team.
Oh, you're not going to thank me?
Thank you, Winford. And we will be back next week with True Tea. Bye.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
That was a nice show.
It was.
All right, I'm telling you about to take a few pictures before we get out of here.